There's a question that I've heard more than almost any other question over my 20 years of helping people plan for retirement. It's a simple question, but can have profound implications. The question I hear most often is, do I have enough to retire and enjoy the life I've always wanted? What makes it such a hard question to answer is that it isn't just math. It's that most people are measuring the wrong thing. They have a number in their head, 1 million, 2 million, whatever they've been told that they might need, and they're trying to figure out whether they've hit that specific number. That's not actually how retirement works. I've sat across people that have $2 million who weren't ready, and people with $500,000 saved who are in better shape than they ever realized. So the balances isn't really what determines the preparation here. What determines it is whether your money can produce enough income to support your life consistently, reliably, for as long as you need it to. That's the real question here today. I want to show you exactly how to answer this. I was talking recently with someone who told me they thought they were ready to retire, but they just weren't sure. They saved well, they had investments in retirement, Social Security was going to begin. Everything seemed like it should add up, but no one had ever actually connected the dots for them. They didn't have a clarity problem or a math problem, they had a framework problem. They'd never seen their situation laid out in a way that gave them a clear answer. That's exactly what we're going to build today, a clear, step-by-step framework that takes you from uncertainty to a real answer. Not a rough sense of whether things look okay, but an actual number you can make a decision from. So let's begin. So step one, we're going to begin to shift from net worth to income. The first thing that needs to change is what we're measuring. Your retirement doesn't run on just overall account balances. It's going to end up running in retirement on monthly income. So what do we need? Think about your mortgage, your groceries, your health care. In retirement, you probably want to travel. So none of these bills arrive as a lump sum usually. They kind of show up overall each month going forward. So the question that actually matters isn't just how much do I have, it's can my money generate enough income every month going forward in retirement to cover my lifestyle? So that begins to reframe where the real analysis begins. So step two, let's build your retirement income statement. So before any calculation is useful, you need two numbers clearly in front of you. The first is what's coming in. So that means Social Security, perhaps a few folks still have a pension, and then any other reliable income sources you expect to have in retirement that will continue even if the markets are going through fluctuations. The second, we need to understand what is going out. So again, monthly expenses, housing, food, healthcare, factor in your travel, taxes, whatever your retirement actually looks like in practice. Not a rough estimate, but a real number you'd feel comfortable building a plan around. The difference between these two figures is a number that changes everything. Because that takes us to step three, one of the most important steps of this entire process. Let's calculate your retirement income gap. Your income gap is simply your expected expenses, monthly basis, minus your guaranteed income on a monthly basis. Very simple. Let's use a straightforward example. Let's say you need $6,000 a month to fund all the expenses that are going to be occurring in retirement. And then your income, let's say in retirement, is projected to only be Social Security, which will be $3,500 a month. So that would leave in this example a gap of $2,500 a month times 12 would be $30,000 a year that your investments need to cover. That's how we fund the income gap. The number 30,000, this is your portfolio's responsibility. Not understanding that and thinking just your total balance. This is important that this specific gap every year for the rest of your retirement, starting in this example with that number and going up for inflation, that's what we're going to need from the overall portfolio. So now that we've understand the number, we can actually test whether what we have is enough or not. So that takes us to step four. Let's identify what we can use, which is understanding your liquid assets. So these are the things that you can use to draw from for funding your income gap in retirement. Now, not everything on your balance sheet is relevant to this calculation. We're only looking at assets that can actually generate income, or in other words, we can draw from. So this would be retirement accounts, other investment accounts, cash on hand, money market, CDs, those sort of things. things that can be drawn from without having to sell, so such as a property, a house, something like that. We don't want to liquidate. That would be more illiquid assets. So we're just looking at your liquid assets. So for now, let's keep your home, your car, personal property. Those don't count unless you are planning to sell them. So for this calculation, we want those assets that are only available to work for you. So once we have that number, you have everything you need for the most important part now of putting together the calculation in this process. So step 5, let's calculate your retirement withdrawal rate. So we can take your income gap and divide it by your liquid assets in our example. And so if we take $30,000 and divide it by $750,000, that equals 4%. And that's your withdrawal rate, the percentage of your portfolio that you start withdrawing on an annual basis to close the gap. The single number will tell you more about the sustainability of your retirement than your account balance ever will. So it's less about total balance, it's more about understanding income gap, and we're doing the calculation here to understand if it's going to allow us to have enough overall in retirement. So are we in a good place or not? Well, let's go through step 6 to understand exactly where this takes us. So step 6, what the number actually means, if we look at history here, historically, a withdrawal rate in the range of about 4 to 5% has been associated with a portfolio lasting through about 25 to 30-year retirement periods under most all market conditions. So in other words, that's generally considered a sustainable range for a good 25, 30-year retirement period. So now, if you did the calculation, if your rate, that withdrawal rate was more like 6 or 7 or even 8%, that's not automatically a disqualifier for retirement whenever you wanted to retire, but it is a signal that there's real pressure potentially on the portfolio at those withdrawal levels. And your plan needs to be structured carefully to account for that. The higher withdrawal rate, the less room there is for error when markets decline, inflation runs higher than typical, or maybe expenses come in even higher than expected. So the important thing to understand is that the withdrawal rate isn't the whole story, but it's a good starting point for a more complete conversation about how your plan overall in retirement should be structured. So step 7, the numbers don't work. Here's what you can do. If your retirement withdrawal rate comes in higher than you like, there's really just 4 levers available for you to pull. First, simple, you could work a little bit longer. I know that's not exciting for most folks, but even 1 to 3 years, additional years of working can meaningfully shift this picture by reducing the length of retirement that your portfolio needs to cover, giving you more time to save, in many cases increasing your Social Security benefit as well. Second, you can save more before you retire by downsizing to free up capital or finding ways to increase income in that final stretch. Overtime, other sort of work you can do, those sort of things could help. Third, if you don't want to do it on the income side, then third, we can look at adjusting your expected spending. Now, not necessarily very dramatically, but just doing it thoughtfully. So every dollar your plan doesn't need to replace is a dollar that reduces the pressure on your portfolio overall. Now, if none of those adjustments are made, then your fourth option simply has to be a retirement that runs short. So I don't mention that just to be harsh, but because it's honest. It's probably not the best one to plan for unless you work into your 70s or maybe you have a shorter than normal life expectancy. But these are the actual choices, and understanding them clearly is what makes it possible to make good decisions. Brings us to step 8. Why the math alone isn't enough. Here's where a lot of people make a mistake even after they've done this calculation correctly. They see a withdrawal rate and it looks sustainable. They assume the plan is fine. But a retirement plan is one that has very many moving parts. It's several systems that need to work together. If we think about everything in retirement, we got income planning, tax strategy, Social Security timing, investment structure. When those pieces are not coordinated, even a plan that looks solid on paper can produce poor outcomes in practice. Withdrawing from the wrong account at the wrong time can push you into a higher tax bracket. It can cause more of your Social Security to become taxable. It could also trigger higher Medicare premiums through the IRMA adjustments. These aren't just unusual things, but these are things that happen to people who have reasonable plans that just are not fully integrated. So getting the withdrawal rate right is an important starting point, but on its own, it only tells you part of the story. This brings us to step 9. The gap between having enough and feeling confident can be a big gap. This is worth naming directly because it's something I see constantly. There are people who have enough, but who do not feel like they do. And that uncertainty keeps them working longer than they perhaps need to, causing them to second guess decisions that are actually very sound, and living with a background anxiety that doesn't actually reflect their actual situation. So that's not a math problem, it's a clarity and confidence problem. And clarity comes from seeing your full picture laid out in a way that actually makes sense. Not just a number, but a plan that shows you where your income is coming from, how long it's designed to last, and what happens if things don't go exactly as expected. And that's the difference between knowing you have enough and feeling like you do. The best option is to have both no matter what. Step 10, what you're actually building towards. The goal of retirement planning isn't simply to avoid running out of money. That's a floor, but not a destination. The real goal is reliable, predictable income. It lets you actually live your retirement without constantly monitoring your accounts or second guessing whether the plan is holding up. When income is structured properly, taxes can be managed thoughtfully, and all the pieces are coordinated, integrated. And that kind of confidence isn't just possible, it's what the plan is designed to produce. If you've never run through this calculation or you have, but you're not sure whether all the pieces are connected the right way, it's exactly what we help people do through our work at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. There's a link in the description where you can schedule a free retirement strategy call with us. We'll map out your income, your retirement income gap, your retirement withdrawal rate, and how everything just fits together and should be integrated so that you can answer the question, do I have enough to live the life I want in retirement? And so without guessing, it's better to know this for sure. So overall, thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.